Hey everybody, Unstable Gamer here, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we have another Disney Sorcerer's Arena video, and we're going to be talking about being the best summoner you can be on the battlefield in PvP and every other game mode in here. We're going to talk about flanking, we're going to talk about adjacent damage and chaining, and how you can make the most out of all of it. There's been a few questions I've seen, so we're going to go ahead and put this video together, and hopefully it helps everybody out. So we're going to dive into that, but first, before we do, if you're just now finding this channel and you want to stay up to date with this and other games, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out. All right, and welcome back. So, like I said, I've got a few questions. Does placement matter? And it absolutely does matter in a game like this, especially when you have splash damage and different types of splash damage, which is AoE damage, which is area of effect. You have adjacent damage, you have flanking, and then you have chaining. Chaining is very similar to adjacent damage, but in kind of a different way. And you want to maximize your attack so you can do the most damage across your entire opponent's team. So I have a team that we're going to play around with. We're going to go into Grand Arena over here, Grand Champion. Do this last node over here. And this team here is really going to show kind of what I want to go over in this whole game. So in this game, in this match here, we're going to do a couple. We have all sorts of damage. We have flanking, we have adjacent, and then we have chaining. Now, my Judy Hopps, I got to work on her a little bit, but she will, she's going to show what we can do with chaining attacks. And then we have adjacent damage with Mordu. We have AoE damage with Big Bad Wolf. This is close to what the arena team is that I'm using right now, but we're going to go over each one of these. So if we just take a look at the rows right now, you have the front row with 3 and you have the back row with 2. If you take a look at Judy Hopps right here and you do adjacent damage is going to impact Shan Yu back here. If you do adjacent damage to Shan Yu, if you do an attack to Shan Yu that does adjacent damage, then you'll do adjacent damage to Judy Hopps and to Zerg here. So that's how adjacent damage works. Your chaining, it all depends on where you start your chaining. So typically on attacks that chain, like with Judy Hopps, I will start on an end. I'll start on one of the end opponents so I can get the most out of that chain. So if it says it's going to chain 1 to 3 times, I'm going to hit Judy Hopps, and then I'm going to hit Shan Yu, then I'm going to hit Zerg here, and then I'm going to hit Big Bad Wolf here. That's 3 chains. If I start with Zerg, then the chain is only going to go one of 2 ways. It's going to go to Shan Yu and then stop at Judy Hopps, or it's going to go to Big Bad Wolf and stop at Mordu. So you want to start a chaining attack on either end if you can. If there's a taunt, you really don't have any choice, but you want to start your chain on one of the ends so that you can do the most damage. Definitely you don't want to do it in the back row, because there's a chance that you do a chaining up to 1 to 3 times, it goes to Shan Yu, and it stops at Judy Hopps, so you're only going to chain that one where you could have chained all 3. All right, so that's adjacent damage, and that is chaining. Now, when it comes to flanking, you have your 2 rows. You have your front row and your back row. Your flanking is just going to attack that entire row, which brings me to placement. Whenever I put my team together, I keep that in mind. So number 1, I always put my tanks on the end. So right now I have Mordu over here. If I had my healer, I would put my healer in this back row. The reason why I do that is it's not the furthest away from Mordu. However, what it does do is it forces one of my key target, one of an opponent's key targets in the front row and one in the back row. So if they're going to do a flanking attack, they have to choose. Are they going to want to hit my front row and hit 3 characters, or are they going to want to hit the back row and hit those 2 characters? So either my tank or my healer is going to get hit, but I like keeping them separate on opposite sides. Now, in this game, because of summonings and things like that, you do have some empty spaces. You have 3 spaces in the back and you have 2 spaces in the front. Those will be adjacent damage as well. So and chaining damage as well. So if I have a summoned target back here by Ariel and I do adjacent damage, I'm gonna hit Ariel and I'm gonna do adjacent damage to Judy Hopps, and then whatever summoned character I have there in the back, whether it's a spell or whether it's maybe Raja from Jasmine. It could be anywhere, and you can have both rows filled up, right? So just something to keep in mind. So we're going to jump into some battles. There's some high-level explanation of each one of those and the reason why I keep my tank and my healer apart. Also, when it comes to placement, as far as putting somebody behind my tank, because of chaining and because of adjacent damage, I typically don't put a support character back there. I will put somebody that has a high amount of health that can withstand that adjacent damage or that chaining damage. So just something to keep in mind there. Typically they're going to start off with your tank. All right, so with that explained, let's go ahead and jump into battle here and just see all of this work out. I shouldn't have it on auto. All right, so that attack right there, that is right here. So on start, deal 695 damage to opponent with highest health percentage. Chain to all other opponents. So that's why it hit those two-sided. It didn't say adjacent, didn't say flanking. It just said all other opponents. Now this attack here, we're going to damage an opponent 23 times and 25% chance for each hit to chain to an adjacent opponent. Now since I don't have anybody in the back here or anything right next door, if I hit any one of these, it shouldn't do any damage to anybody else other than the target that I have. So we'll go ahead and do that. Boom, took care of him. There was no target adjacent to that target, so there we go with that. All right, this one right here, obviously it's an AoE attack. It damages all opponents. It doesn't matter who you hit. One thing you want to keep in mind with these types of abilities, though, is sometimes what it will say is your target will get a specific debuff or something like that, or something specific to happen to that target, and then there's going to be splash damage. There's going to be damage to everybody else. So you definitely want to select what target you want to have that debuff on. If it doesn't say, like this one right here, you're going to deal damage to all opponents, 40% chance to inflict defense down for 2 turns, guaranteed to inflict defense down if an opponent is a hero character. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we're gonna save the chaining for the next one. That's one right here. You can chain 1 to 3 times. We have an AoE one right here. Damage all opponents. 50% chance to inflict slow for 2 turns. Let's see what we get. And I'm gonna save this adjacent damage one too because Mordu. This is a really cool one. So this one right here. This is one of the ones I was talking about. You're gonna deal damage to the targeted opponent and inflict stun for 1 turn, just to that opponent. Now, also, you deal up to 12 damage to adjacent opponents, 45% chance to inflict slow on adjacent opponents for 1 turn. So you're going to stun your target, and then you have a chance to slow adjacent opponents, which is awesome. So we're going to save that. All right. Let's go ahead. Get rid of this row. This will be the slowest battle, and then the next one we're going to run quicker. All right, so here we go. Next row. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just damage there. All right, so now here we go with the chain. All right, we're going to chain to 1 to 3 targets. Watch this. Boom, boom. So from here, chain to that back one, and then once it hits that, then it continues to chain, right? There was no place to go after that middle target, so then I only got those 2 chains. I wasn't able to get all of them. Now if I go to this back row, here's some adjacent damage as well. So stun that back one, and then we're gonna do adjacent damage. Boom. There we go. This far right one up here is considered adjacent to that back one right there. So definitely make sure you have that placed right. If I had it on this far side, I wouldn't have gotten all 3 characters. I did stun my target though. All right, here's my flanking right here. I'm using Iago for that. Just gonna pick this front row. It's got the buffs. Iago is awesome because he, come on. So right here, we're going to apply a copy of each purged effect to 3 random teammates. So we're going to do this flanking damage, hit that entire row. Boom, call it good. I'm going to do this just because. All right, let's get through the rest of this battle now. Finish that up. Now battle 3. There's Ariel. I'm just going to do some healing. And then I want to just do... so I want to go in that back corner as soon as I can. So let's see. I'm gonna go this back corner here. No, yep, I'm taunted back there, so I'm good. I'm gonna do the chaining. Boom, boom, and then it stops there because I don't have an opponent over there. So you only chain to those back two, right? So I think everybody gets it, right? So let's go ahead, do that. Wasn't worried about 3-starring this, so this I am gonna go and hit that back one with this. Do some adjacent damage to that one up front. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do one more battle after this. We're going to apply it to Arena. All right, so here we go. Got a nice team here. This is the team that I've been using lately in Arena. So I've been using his second ability. This does flanking damage. So it's going to go down that first row. And then right off the bat, we're going to go to Aladdin. More flanking damage with the carpet. So I got some defense down and I have some slows there. Now with my summon, I have to choose. I have to be careful where I put my summoned characters because the opponent can use that against me and hit who I want. Right. So I'm going to put my summoned character over on the other side next time. Again, not talking too much, right? Here, let's do some AoE damage. Now I'll put Raj on the other side behind my tank, because like I was talking about before, I want to keep the damage away from my attackers, from my healers, whoever. I want to keep it on one side of my team, and that's the side that has the highest health. Now, one thing that is pretty cool is if you take a look at Ariel's kit, there is chaining damage based on a debuff. So that's why Ariel and Aladdin work out so well, because you use carpet to slow everybody down. Look, we're going to do some adjacent damage here. I'm going to put it in the middle. I don't care about stunning him. I care about doing damage to all three of them. But so you use Aladdin as a target to slow that front row down, and then Ariel's basic chains to additional targets that have slow. So that's pretty cool. That doesn't follow the typical rules of adjacent damage or flanking damage. That whole front row, it'll chain to. So those two are pretty good to use together. And that's all about placement. So there you go. We're gonna wrap this. Up. One more. We're gonna go ahead and auto that. All right, so there we go, everybody. That's what I had to show you today. Just a video to go over how you can be the best summoner in the arena using flanking, adjacent damage, and chaining to your benefit, maximizing your damage and minimizing the damage to your own team by making sure that you have your placement just right. Pay attention to placement, keeping your tanks and your support or your healer on different rows so that flanking damage does not do damage to both. Your opponent's going to have to make some choices there. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Definitely let me know your thoughts and tips as far as strategies and combat goes in the comment section below. I'd really like to see that, and it'll help everybody else that's watching the video as well. All right, everybody, as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.